अच्छा वो स्टिल फोटो लेंगे, स्पीकर भी जब लेना है तब ऑडियंस आना चाहिए, वाइड एंगल में लेंगे, ऑडियंस आना चाहिए.
On behalf of PGPX student body, I welcome Mr. Aniruddha Deshmukh. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking time out to grace the occasion with your experience sharing session here. And my thanks also goes to the fellow PGPX students of coming back. I'm sure yesterday's presentation and assignments would have kept you awake till wee hours of the morning. And I'm sure we are going to have a very interesting session. We had a brief chat during the lunchtime, and it was a very interesting talk on retailing in the kind of towns, census towns and class 4 towns. I mean, normally when it comes to apparel sector, fashion brands, we normally link it with metropolitan cities, high fashion. But the whole concept of going to smaller towns is a new concept, and I'm sure Raymond must have pulled it very strongly, and let's hear it all from him. Coming to Mr. Aniruddha, he is a very widely respected professional in this trade. I happen to know that he is an avid sports enthusiast. He is, his dedication, his attitude towards work is all exceptional. And I'm told that he's a great boss as well. In terms of, even today, I understand that he never misses his morning walk. So that talks volume about the way he mixes his professional commitments along with the personal requirements. So, hats off to you, sir. And coming to textiles, Raymond's, we all know, though it has been the complete man since 1925. So, we would love to hear more about it. And textile industry, of course, we are at a $35 billion company, industry with about 20% organized retail. Seems like sitting at the tip of the iceberg. But again, these are all statistics. If Mr. Sidhu would be having here, he would have said statistics are like miniskirts, and they sort of reveal more than what should hide. So let's not go into hiding and revealing. I'll leave it to Mr. Aniruddha to take it through this session and cast the pearls of wisdom for us, sir. Over to you, sir. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for the intro. So this is okay, no? It's reasonably visible out over there, and the audio is also okay, I guess. Okay. Now I had an excellent discussion over lunch with some of your colleagues. Very interested and very impressed with the sort of depth of knowledge, as well as the questions. So I'm sure that we should have some very interesting and engaging Q&A. So some of the things we'll cover over here, but some of the others we'll just leave it for a conversation that happens. The topic that I chose was about fashion retailing in small town India. This is something that we at Raymond are very, very passionate about. We embarked on a major initiative on this around 2009. or so, while we were present in small towns earlier, but it was in 2009 that we said that we were seeing the emerging trends coming out over there. And by small towns, I actually mean class 4 and class 5 towns, which is very small. So how do we translate whatever we are doing into towns all over there? I personally traveled extensively across India visiting all these towns. And it's an amazing experience. Really, it's an amazing experience as to what people expect, what are their passions, what are their challenges, to know about them, to meet their families, to be a part of their life has been a fantastic experience. So basically, I think what I'm going to really dwell about is how do you translate fashion, from here. I don't know whether the picture is very clear or not, but this is a modern metropolis to, let's say, here, which is what really small town India is all about. Unorganized, but still lots and lots of consumers willing to buy your product. So that's what I think the whole thing is about. Essentially, our way has been one brand. We have gone with the Raymond brand from metros to smaller towns, whatever that is, because we believe that that's a very critical ingredient to success in smaller towns, where whatever is your brand and your brand proposition, you put across. One promise, which is that of a complete man, whether he stays in Bombay or whether he stays in Chikli or anywhere like that, that's our promise. A clear message, no dilution. If our hoardings are what they are in Warden Road, they will be the same what they are somewhere else, translated for languages or other things. And the proposition, the complete man proposition, which is what it is there. That's the way that we went about it. As I go through, I'll probably talk of a lot of things which are common to various brands which will retail fashion in smaller towns, and some of them would be what our experiences have been. So it's a mix of both of them put together. This is a very interesting phrase which we picked up in one of our conversations with our franchisees about what Raymond stands for as a brand. And when we have these meetings with our partners, we invite them to talk about, and one of them said that this phrase, which is the rich and the poor walk into the Raymond shop with equal pride. That is probably encapsulates the entire brand. It's equally relevant to the rich, it's equally relevant to the poor. The rich take as much pride in owning the brand as does, let's say, the not so rich. But this is what, this was what was the phrase which was used. So I thought that in order to understand, this is what has probably helped us translate a lot of things that we do in the metros and other towns into the small towns. If you keep this at the back of the mind, then I think a lot of it comes across. Just to give you a backdrop, we have currently about 679 exclusive Raymond shop stores, across India, about 1.45 million square feet, 378 towns we are present in, of which 294 are class 4 and class 5 towns, and we are going to concentrate on only this particular aspect of fashion retailing. Class 4 and class 5 towns are all those, actually class 4 is below 1 lakh and class 5 is below 50,000 or so. So these are, really small towns. And which are these? For example, I just put up some which we are present in the state of Gujarat. So they're not Rajkot, or they're not Baroda, or they're not any of this. Because if you look at it from a foreign investor point of view, they still think that a Rajkot or a Baroda or a Nasik are small towns, but that is not what we are meaning at all. These may be those may be class 2, or Ahmedabad, of course, a class 1 town or a class 3 town. But we are really talking about, the Anand, Ankleshwar, Bardoli, and all of these which we talk about. Real small towns. 1 lakh is a huge population by Western standards, but by Indian standards, of course, we all know that. So the story is essentially about what's happening here, and not about what's happening in the Ahmedabads and the Mumbais and other things. So the other thing we look at is, in small town India, who are the others who are in fashion retailing? Some of them are to a larger extent, some of them are just there. Bata is, of course, big. It's definitely larger than us in terms of its footprint. And shoes is actually fashion retailing, fashion and lifestyle retailing. So they are probably very, very widely present out over there. Titan is also good, but much, much smaller. If we are in 269 towns, Titan maybe, I don't know how many small towns. We have about 375 towns total. Titan has, I think, less than 200 or so. But we are seeing some presence of Titan in smaller towns with their watches. Amongst apparel companies, Peter England, I think, has a presence in more than 250 towns, but still smaller because coming in with an apparel proposition. Then the two MNCs, Reebok and Levi's, of course, much, much less presence, but we saw some footprint of it coming in. Of course, some issues with respect to stores coming up over there, I think for Reebok and both for Levi's. And I think if we then go through what we feel are the essential criteria for success out over there, we will probably understand what challenges the multinational companies are facing or will face when they come to these particular towns. Levi's. In other areas, like if you leave fashion retailing apart, then there are these automobile companies, especially the two-wheelers, which are very, very strong. I mean, a TVS is strong, a Hero is strong, the two-wheelers are pretty strong, the banks are pretty strong. You know, when we look at what are the retail formats. We collaborate pretty closely with Titan, in fact, in seeing whether we can, we can work out with similar franchisees out over there. They will look at which towns we are going to. We'll look at what towns they are there and we are not there, and we do collaborate on that particular aspect. Because ultimately, the people who are going to manage retail in a small town are very, very limited. You know, you don't have a wide spectrum of people who will manage this in smaller towns. You know, again, the challenges of how can the same brand, let's say Raymond, and this is a facade of our Warden Road shop on High Street, Mumbai, 15,000 square feet, I mean, best of Italian marble, best of fixtures and all. You know, how do we translate, how can a brand be here and also be here, which is again the shop opening in a small town where people are just gathered to open the shop, but it's pretty similar out over there. And similarly, how can we give a customer experience? How can it be the same what we can give in a Warden Road store, spick and span, everything well laid out, huge expanse. I mean, how can we do the same thing there? And in a typical small town, although this is a shop opening, whenever people come for marriage purchases, while one person would be buying, there are 25 other people who come in over there, and the shop would literally look like this. Some people sitting on the counter and all of that. But the brand experience and the customer experience, we need to make sure that they're pretty similar. I mean, it's impossible to have it identical, but that the brand survives and thrives in this situation. So I put down what I feel are some of the absolute musts when a brand decides to go into a smaller town. We see a lot of small local brands which are there, doing pretty well in these towns, would have good revenues, good profits, but they can't go from one town to the other, or they can probably go to a cluster of town in a limited part of state or larger, but really can't span across. So I think it's absolutely essential to have a really nationally recognized brand. You need to be well present first in the metros before you make a foray into smaller town. So that's, I think, the first thing that we really and we had that at Raymond, that we had a nationally recognized brand, so we could get into smaller towns. Another key is that the brand values need to basically be in sync with whatever other value systems which are prevailing in the smaller town, and they're a little different. They're still very much family driven, while they will want to, let's say, wear the best, but the value systems or the core value systems are still very, very traditional out over there. So you can't have a brand which has got a completely different image outside to possibly do well within a small town. Fortunately for us, I think Raymond really stands for a lot of let's say value systems which are inherent within India across. And I was just talking at lunch, when we talk of relationships, whether it's we have explored that very, very extensively in all our communication, whether it's the father-son, the mother grown-up son, the mother-in-law, son-in-law, or the student-teacher. Now, these are all relationships which are very integral to small town India. and play a fairly significant part in it. And that's why, we really feel that the brand values need to be absolutely in sync out of India. The key thing is, of course, your local partner. You cannot manage in a small town the way that you could manage in a metro, send professional store managers and do that. One might think that it's relatively simple, but it just doesn't work that way. And a lot of companies have realized that unless you have a very, very strong local partner out over there, it's very, very difficult for you to succeed in the longer run. And we have explored with a number of models on this particular thing. Raymond is essentially a franchisee-driven operation. So sometimes the franchisee is completely a local guy. We have also explored fairly successfully some models where we have a franchisee in a large town who then enters into partnership with a franchisee in a small town. So he provides the knowledge and everything else. In fact, one of our largest franchisees in Eastern India, he has expanded to almost about 25 stores in small towns on the strength of this model, which is, partnering with the local person out over there for, local expertise, location and other things. And he has the knowledge of merchandise and he does all of that. So it's a very, very important ingredient in the success of what you would do in fashion retailing in small town India. Otherwise, you just don't know, when you're spread over 670 stores, you just don't know what's happening where. So local partner is very essential. While retail is all about location, in metros and large towns, it's not so critical in small towns because, the distances are short. What would happen is in the mandi area or the main market area, it will be impossible to get a good location. Although parking is not a relevant issue. I mean, it might be a relevant issue over here. In small towns, it's not such a relevant issue. But you could be a little further off, not too far off away from the main market and be successful. If you are in the main market and you get an ideal location, like normally a fashion retailer would want, say, 18-20 feet of frontage or whatever that is there. If you get that sort of location, it's great, but it's very, very difficult because, the buildings are not okay. There are multiple owners, so multiple things are there. We have done that. I mean, I remember in the, I think 90s or so, when we opened in Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur was a small town only at that point of time. I don't know how many people are aware of Jamshedpur. Bishtipur is, let's say, the main market area in Jamshedpur. But we opened way inside out over there, and there was absolutely no issue. People just went, bought. So we have opened a number of stores in locations which are not central. And what happens is, when you then start talking to retailers like Titan and so many others, then they also start coming up with shops out over there. So you sort of develop a mini high street or these areas, and I think we've been quite pioneering in that particular aspect, that go to a location, set up a Raymond shop, you have people coming in over there, and that locality starts developing. I know probably my colleague Snailbhai is here, he's from Ahmedabad, but CG Road probably we would have been one of the early retailers. I know in Mumbai we set up a huge shop in Andheri. I mean, that was completely a non-retailing area, that stretch of land area, and then people started coming in. So we believe that while location is a factor, I mean, you can't be completely way out. It's fourth in my particular list. It's not such a great area. For the partner, what we feel are great to have qualities, let's say, or what one would look for in fashion retailing in a partner. I think the first is he should have some passion for fashion, because apparel, garments, whether it's fabric, is a very personalized selling. I mean, you are adorning yourself with it day in and day out. So it's unlike any other thing where you might not be so intimately associated. So the owner, we believe, should have at least that eye and the passion for really fashion. It may not be retailing, he may not be a great retailer, but if he has got an eye for fashion, will make him to be a great retailer. Property, ownership of property becomes important because the way structures are, if you're starting to pay rent, you would do well, but the financials may sort of be very stretched. And we have seen all franchisees look at it differently. I mean, property is one business for them and retailing is another business. So they would typically buy that particular property. They know the property is appreciating, so they won't attach a cost of property to retailing, and and then concentrate on retailing. So property is an important factor. The other one is, there is a mentality that how do you earn profits? I mean, there are two ways. I mean, you can earn by purchasing cheap goods or discounted goods and other things. Or the other way would be to keep a good assortment of products which consumers want. We have invariably found that profits come from selling rather than purchasing. It's not that you should purchase wildly, but if you only purchase discounted goods or goods which are available on very good deals and then try to put them in the store expecting people to buy, it doesn't really work. Consumers, whenever they visit a fashion retailer, they want to know what's new. I mean, that's the first thing, that's the first questions I think consumers worldwide are asking retailers, what's new? And it's no different in small town also. So really I think this recognition, and that is what we would look for, is that the profits should come more from selling well, having a good assortment, keeping everything, and not from continuously purchasing cheap. Needs patience. I mean, you can't expect profit to come in immediately, national brand or whatever it is there, because most people from small town are already buying the product somewhere else. I mean, if we have set up a store in Nadiad or somewhere, I mean, those guys were probably going to Ahmedabad to buy, and they will continue to go to Ahmedabad to buy for some time till they realize that the shop which is in Nadiad itself has got a good assortment, everything is there, and then they will stop. So, so that sort of patience is probably needed out over there. And the other important thing which we have found is that you need a bank of relatives out over there to run the shop or manage the shop. You can't just be a single person. It's a very important factor out over there. It also helps, what happens, the franchisee has a son or a daughter and they don't want them to go out. So, but there needs to be something attractive for them to be in that small town. So if you are a Raymond retailer or if you are any fashion retailer, then it keeps the people within the thing. And I've just got one nice photograph. This is in a place called Chikli, which is I think near, way south of Surat. But that's the family. I mean, that's a chairman. But when we went over there, it's a family occasion. When sort of we visit out over there, it's more of a family occasion. So family people are very important because the smaller town franchisee or most franchisees, I think, want to have control over the management because there are cash issues, there are merchandise issues. Otherwise, a lot of expansion sort of gets stuck because the guy has one shop, let's say, but can't go put up another shop because there is no one to manage it. So there should be a good good family members out over there. Some of the desirables, not necessarily essential. You can't go with high-end products. You need, products which consumers can buy. Doesn't mean that you don't stock high-end products. It's needed. I mean, fashion can come at all prices. So you do need an assortment. Fortunately for us, Raymond has a huge assortment. Right, it's premium and it's aspirational at different price points. I'm not saying it's vulnerable or anything, but that's an area where he's in the frame of mind to buy formal buy formal wear. And there we are actually doing some direct marketing out over there. We've introduced newer price points. But I agree that that is probably the core customer that we need to target. We know that in the made to measure, the well-to-do mid-30s people will come in once they have the experience, but the younger one are but see, everyone wants certain level of individualization and personalization. I mean, that's a trend, that's a global trend.
Okay, so just the second part of my question is that we saw our fathers buy Raymond, and if I'm a person in my late 20s or 30s, I'd probably not want to be associated with a brand that my parent bought. So how does Raymond become cool for this generation?
Yeah. So that's how does become, see, as I said before, Raymond might not be relevant for that generation at a particular point of time. But once they come into, whether it's the marriageable age or whether it is the interview time, Raymond becomes incredibly relevant whether it is my grandfather's brand or my father's brand, because that is what it is. So there are certain areas where we are weak in that. For example, ethnic wear, which is a huge trend, we have been weak. And I was mentioning that we are a little slow in some of the things, but once we get onto it, we really get onto it. So that's an area that we will get onto it fairly strongly. So if you start capturing the various occasions, youngsters wear ethnic wear for sure. If you start capturing that, then we have a much better chance of getting it out of there. It's not that everything that your father did you want to junk. I mean, people are not that rebellious as yet. But it's I mean, there are positives in this, and I'll come to the same thing, which is the relevance of the product at where you are in your life cycle. What is the relevance of it? At some places you might not. As I said, in colleges it's an irrelevant product because it's too formal. I'm not into it. I'm into jeans and I'm into t-shirts and tees or whatever. It's completely irrelevant. I mean, I'll give you the example of my son. I mean, he's 21 or so, and he goes for internship. I mean, he's in college, so it's a completely irrelevant. But when he went for internship, I mean, he knew he had to wear formals. There's no question of wearing any jeans or anything. So it becomes a relevant product. And he gave him the experience of a made-to-measure once. And then it's so simple. He just have to say that, why don't you send me these shirts, and they'll go across. So it becomes relatively simple then.
Hi.
Sorry? Yeah, of course. The formal wear, not the casual wear, the formal wear for sure.
Hi, I'm Maulik. I had a question.
Yeah.
This is regarding Raymond in general, not about Raymond being in the rural market or in the urban market. See, the problem with formal shirts, I find, is that, once you walk out of a Raymond store, I mean, it does not matter. It is a Raymond or it is a jade blue shirt. Really, it does not have a brand attached to it. Like if I wear
that is if you look at the fabric.
No. I'm just talking about the shirt that I wear.
Okay.
Only Arrow that I wear has got, a logo, and it can be differentiated from a normal shirt and an Arrow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if even the brands that you showed, that Titan, Reebok, everything has got something attached to it that differentiates the brand from the other brands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I am not able to differentiate Raymond
if you're looking at, do we have a recognizable logo which I can flash off?
Yeah, I mean, why is not Raymond doing that? Any specific reason?
No, incidentally we have it, but we have not communicated that we have it. I think that's why. It's not that. In the Raymond Premium Apparel and in the Park Avenue, we have logos which are there all over the place. It's not that they're not there. But we probably have not been as smart at communicating that we have that as we should be. And I take that point. It's there. It's not that it's not there. It's absolutely there. No, this is probably a made-to-measure shirt, so that's why I'm not seeing it here. It's Raymond for sure. So.
I have recently noticed that in shirts, particularly, it says that it has been stitched by someone else. It has been outsourced, is it?
No, sorry, stitched by meaning?
It says stitched for Raymond's, which indicates that it has been outsourced.
Oh yeah. See, I mean, obviously, the shirts that we manufacture, the trousers that we do, we don't have that much of manufacturing capacity. So some of it could be done in-house, some of this could be outsourced. But even if it is outsourced, I mean, it bears the stamp of Raymond quality, because we'll have a huge outsourcing team to ensure that the quality is consistent with whatever our standards are. So it could be, I mean, it could be done in Bangladesh, it could be done in India somewhere. It doesn't really matter as long as the quality assurance is the same. So it would be, I'm pretty sure.
Hi. I have a question here.
Sorry.
Yeah. So as you start expanding into the tier 4 and tier 5 markets, one important parameter would be managing your variety, because you may also need to take into account specific tastes of customers So how challenging is that actually?
No, that's very challenging, because if you look at the colors, if you look at the designs, they're very different from what they are in the south. Absolutely. And very different from what they are in the north. And then even within north, Bihar will have, there's a peculiar blue color which is very popular in Bihar. I understand that. So, there are these, but see, we sort of know. And the second one, see, the important part of it is that our franchisees run that business. You know, ours is a buy and sell model. We don't do anything on consignment basis. So they know what sells in that region, and we have a wide spectrum of offerings. So when they come to book and buy, they will buy what is specific to their particular region. So we have a nationwide offering. So that's there. But sometimes we do need to specifically develop for particular markets. You know, there are different color tastes, there are different design tastes. You know, the Chennai checks or whatever, they're completely they're different patterns.
I guess even in terms of the fabric, probably.
Yeah. Even in terms of the fabric, the fabric weave, the finishes, the colors I mentioned, but the sort of feel, they're different from different regions. They're sober in some places, they're more aggressive in some of the other places. But because we are a national brand and have a wide spectrum, and our franchisees run the business out over there, within the predefined guidelines, they make the right. So they might make a few mistakes here or there, but eventually, because it's their business and they need to make money out of it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
In the interest of time, we'll take 2 more questions, and let's have some questions from this side.
I'm Varun. Basically, whatever we have heard till now is from once the production has been done, and towards marketing side, towards selling side in small town, large town. But what I understand is that I'm wearing a Raymond brand currently. So, but what I understand is that to me, what Raymond has meant is that it gives me a better durability and comfort than other brands. So what I want to know is that the strength lies in the fabric and the sourcing part somewhere. But that has not come out because, of course, it was towards the small town retail. So can you throw some light on how you manage the sourcing part and the fabric part of it, before it gets onto the street?
I think your question is more on the ready-made part of it, or?
No, it is from the part of the raw material that goes into the...
The raw material or whatever, there are fabric, and I'm very familiar with fabric. I'm not so much with the ready-made business. But if you look at the fabric, a fabric has different blends. It could be cotton, it could be wool, it could be wool blends, it could be polyester, it could be polyester blends, viscose, and all of that. Okay, so we have a fairly wide offering of the various blends. So how typically the process happens, if you look at the process, what happens is that we have 2 seasons, which is one is the winter season and the summer season. And leading up to that season, our designers will create a whole collection. We will have probably 900 odd different qualities. Each quality might have about 4 or 5 colorways. So maybe about 5,000 stock keeping units will be there. So it's a very wide palette which is there. Now, that's how we develop based on feedback. Then we will have, in the process of developing this, we will have interactions with the trade, feedback from our salespeople, feedback from our agents, everything we will do to sort of over a 5 or 6 month period, zero in on what is our offering for the season. It will look at what are the forecasts, what are the color forecasts, like obviously as I mentioned those rowdy colors, you'll probably see a lot of rowdy colors coming in. So once we do that, then we have what is called as a sample set, okay, which consists of say 900,000 qualities with different colorways, and then with that we go to the dealers, okay. Now part of the qualities which we are very confident about, we will already push it into manufacturing. We are reasonably confident that these will sell. Some of the others we will wait to see how the dealers book, what quantities are coming in, and then push for manufacturing. So typically right now we are in a booking process for winter 13, where deliveries will be from June through to November. So whatever we are delivering in June and July have already gone into manufacturing. Whatever we will deliver from August through to November will depend on what the orders come, so we reduce our time. So that's typically the process that goes. Now even if it's a small town, the dealer will come and place the order. He sees it, he knows what is selling in his particular region. And then once he places the order, we'll supply. I mean, that's the broad way in which the process works. Now, the fabric which we are using will depend on what is the theme for the season. We are getting a lot into cottons and linens. We've never been in that particular area, but getting into cottons and linens now, because that's a good trend which we are seeing. Polyesters is a trend. So some of these trends as we observe, we have to see whether we are getting into this. Sorry, a bit technical, but that is how it actually works out.
Sir, there's. So how are you looking at it? Traditionally, Raymond is always for a men formal wear. But how are you looking at a female formal wear coming up in next 5 years?
I asked that question at lunchtime. See, while Raymond is a menswear brand, when we do in product, when we have done consumer research, the number of women voting for Raymond is much higher than the number of men. It's a very, very strong. Now, the challenge that we have is to how to translate that equity which is there amongst the women into products for women. Okay. There are multiple issues. There are tailoring issues which are there. There are fabric issues which are, fabric is a little different for women. It needs to have stretch and various things like that. While women do tailor from Raymond fabric, it's not a strength area for us at all. We are conscious of the fact that while we are in fashion retailing, the people who really are fashionable and going for fashion, we are out of their purview. Almost 50-60% of the fashion retailing, more than 60% of the fashion retailing is by women. That's a completely black space for us. I mean, we have not entered that. So we need to see how to get in. They were still trying to struggle with the 40% of the fashion retailing space that is there in the limited area. So yes, a challenge. Do we have the answers? No, not right now. We are conscious that we need to do something over there. But let's see, future beholds. So. Yeah.
Note,
oh, there are two questions. Yeah, okay, great.
Lighter note, the tagline, the complete woman may completely backfire because women are always complete.
Okay.
We'll take one last question.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
It was related to the women's wear.
Okay.
I was wondering if I could get shirts made at the made-to-order shops, at least, because I actually do like
Not, I don't think right now, but we are working on that. That's the first thing. We are working on that. In fact, there is a model which is there. In fact, I think about 6-7 months back, the MTM team did a complete exercise, stitched a lot of garments for women, but we have not implemented that because we believe that before we come to that, we need to do a lot more things on the men part of it to fix that. But surely, I think that's an area that we do for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, we'll stop here. And thanks to our guest of honor as well as the audience for such an interesting conversation. I will now hand over to Nitin, who will present a vote of thanks.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you, Mr. Aniruddha. It was fantastic hearing him. I'm not sure many of us know that he's a fellow IIM, but from Calcutta. He's an alumni. And the first thing that I asked him was, he told me that he's in between meetings and he's come here and then he's going out somewhere. So I asked him, are you actually required to visit different places and stuff? And what struck me as great was that he said, I'm not required to, but I want to because I need to understand my customers. And his customers obviously franchisees, distributors, retailers, all these things. So a fantastic point. Another thing is, he actually tied up a lot of things which we've been taught. Today we were taught, things like, how to be culturally relevant in the markets itself. We've been, Professor Sharma is here. He started how to be bringing value to our customers. And during one of the conversations, he actually mentioned the elephant cheetah concept also. Quite a big surprise for us. Yes, sir. So thank you so much. It's been fantastic understanding, how a brand can, the creation of the brand, we feel that it's very a cumbersome task, but the thing that comes out, the sustenance of that brand to that value and making it grow is a much larger task and a much tougher thing to do than just creating that brand itself. And then moving it to a certain market where it's not visibly targeted out. And I think that is a big thing for us to come in because all of us are, maybe not all, but a lot of us have spent most of our time in big cities and we've been exposed to fashion retailing in large cities itself. So an insight into what works in the small town and which is actually a very big growing segment for all, not just fashion retail, but all segments. And we constantly see energy and agri, people talking about agri business and stuff. So that is one. And he's actually provided us with a quiver full of arrows to target this fantastic market itself. I would now like to ask our dear Professor Sharma, who's the chair of marketing, to present a small token from our side.
Thanks. That's very insightful. Thank you. So, actually, I must close with a very, some interesting, some very interesting observations on what happens, which I didn't put over here when you go to small towns. First and foremost, you should start without any breakfast in the morning. Okay, absolutely no breakfast. That's point number one. Point number two, wear slip-ons, because a lot of places you'll have to keep taking your shoes out. Because everywhere you go, I mean, people just want to feed you. They just want to feed you. And when you're visiting 7 or 8 stores a day, it gets quite a lot. So don't plan for any lunch or anything. We went to one small, and we just tried to, we said we have had it at the shop before, but that's probably a competitor's shop. You must have it at my shop also. So we have to keep sipping small things. And we reached one place where we were at the, at the little end of it. And he says, no, nothing. So he showed us the whole store. Then he took us up. Okay, he said, I'm showing you the store only. So it was in the store. Then he opened a door and we were right into his drawing room, his house. And he had a whole spread out over there. So you come to meet such interesting people and such fascinating experiences as you go across, because you become a part and parcel of the family and life out over there. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed being over here. Thanks for your attention, and have a great time in fashion retailing in small towns.